everybody. Welcome back to Passions Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the soap opera Passions. I am your regular host, Latara, back today with Dr. Eric Vera.
Hello. It is so nice to be here with you on what will be a somber occasion, but the things that Passions has told us to prepare for, because now they keep showing us these things on the bottom of the screen. Dreams do come true. Love is in the air. Miguel's desperate, and love and death are in harmony.
Yeah. I mean, all of those things. Yes, all of those things. There's so much death in harmony right now. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's actually insane. The kids are just dropping all over the place. They're not all right. The kids are not all right. The kids are not all right. So we watched episodes 781 through 785 this week, right?
That's correct.
And before we get into the episodes, let's give a quick shout out to all the patrons over on Patreon. Thank you to Munashe, Lisa, Sid, Randall, Hannah, Camelia, Samantha, Jeanette, Eric, Fantasia, Sean, S, Larissa, Maria, Lisa, Jessica Jean, Laura, Karen, Uche, Paige, Casey, Garanch, Tom Bergeron, Daisy, Shane, Kelly, Taylor Harris Crane, and DJ. Thank you all so much for continuing to be patrons. And I think if you really want to be a part of the community, the Patreon is the best way to do it, because as many of you probably have noticed, I have basically given up on the social media accounts.
It's hard.
There's just
it's a lot of work
going on. Yeah, there's just too much going on. I'm trying to keep up with a million things, and I will eventually try and get back into the swing of doing the social media more. But like TikTok's up in the air if it's going to be banned or not, really truly banned in the States. I refuse to use Twitter anymore. And honestly, I'm not crazy about Instagram or Facebook either. Like Mark Zuckerberg, whatever.
All the
so
stuff.
That leaves me with these like newer platforms that need to be built up, aka Blue Sky, which I have put a Passions page on the Blue Sky. So just search Passions Podcast on Blue Sky if you have that. And I think I said last week I made a red note.
Yeah.
I made a Passions red note, which has nothing on it right now. So I don't know. I just, it's just all up in the air. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to learn how to use new platforms. And so I will eventually get back to it. But if you want to really be a part of the community, like you want to talk to me or you want to get in on some of these conversations, the best way to do it is to join the Patreon at patreon.com/passionspodcast and sign up for whatever tier is most agreeable to you. At the lowest tier, you can get on the Discord, right? So $2 you can get on the Discord, and you can come to watch parties. So if you want to join, and we can actually, have conversation. It's a lot of fun. So
it is a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And our first watch party, which by the time I put this out, we will have done it. But our first watch party for the month is February 10th. And then we're having one on February the 17th. And then we're having game night on February the 27th. So join and come join us and have some fun. All right. With that said, it's time to move on to the really big show. A really big show. And it really is a big show.
It really is.
There's so much going on in harmony.
Yeah.
But that makes sense because we are solidly in the summer, moving into like the fall months almost. So this week falls at the very end of July, beginning of August. Yeah. So, all the kids were home. We were all at home watching Passion.
That's what I think it is, too. It's like we're all on summer vacation, so we were not missing anything.
And, honey, we were eating good. They were feeding us. They fed us in the summer. They fed us.
They were telling us, skip school, y'all. Don't even go to school.
Baby, it's a smorgasbord. That's a thing in New York, but smorgasbord is what I was trying to say. Borg? Board.
Smorgasbord? Mm-hmm.
Is it a board or a Borg?
I thought it was Borg, but I could be wrong. This is the kind of stuff that the Patreon group loves to criticize us on.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have like heated discussions.
Smorgasbord.
Smorgasbord?
Smorgasbord.
With a D at the end.
Yes.
Oh,
Dorg.
okay. Look,
Borg.
the more you know.
Smorgasbord.
The more you know. All right. So we're going to pick up this week talking about Teresa, Night of the Living Dead. She's back, honey. She's awake.
Fully back.
She's fully back. So we're gonna start with Teresa, Ethan, Gwen. We're seeing more of Gwen this week. So for you Gwen lovers out there, it should be nice for you. I'm not gonna talk nice about her, but you will hear us talk about her today fairly. I will be fair. I promise to be fair, Maria. Yeah. That was all for Maria. Okay. All right, so Teresa, we pick up with them at the mansion, and Ethan, Teresa, and her baby are like sitting on the couch in the living room, bonding with the baby, just cooing over the baby. Ethan is just, honestly, I think he's truly just flabbergasted by the whole thing and is kind of mesmerized, you know?
Rightfully so. Yeah. There's Teresa's back from the dead. All of the things you were worried about, like, I mean, any human being would be like, dang, this poor baby's growing out without its mom. Like, you know, and then Julian's back from the dead too. I mean, that also has, I mean, there's so much that you have to process. So yeah, but he's just really flabbergasted by everything and enamored with the baby. And I think babies do that to people. It's
yes, like, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He agreed. Enamored is the exact right word. He's enamored with the baby and with Teresa at this point. Cause like you said, she's an anomaly.
Yeah, she should not be here right now. And she is.
While all that's happening, Gwen, of course, is like looking on. She is showing that she's jealous and nervous. But
and again, rightfully so. I would feel horrible if Gwen had it made in the shade. Like it was.
Yeah, no, she has had the rug pulled out from under her. She has. And it's showing on her face, but she's not saying it out of her mouth. What she's saying to her mom, who keeps coming up to her being like, you need to do something about this. She's like, you know, I'm not going to lose Ethan. Ethan and I are back together. Okay, so that's where we start with Gwen. Keep that in your minds. We start with, I'm not going to lose Ethan. He and I are back together. Meanwhile, Ivy and Rebecca are, you know, huddling together, worried, terrified that Teresa's going to out them because
it's only a matter of time. Yeah.
Yeah. In their minds, it's only a matter of time until she outs the fact that they set her up because she heard them talking about all of these horrible plans that they had for her in front of her coffin. Right. So Ethan looks at Teresa and he says, you know, this is all great, wonderful. I'm so happy to have you back, but I need to ask you something. And Ivy knows exactly where this is going and she tries to stop it, but it doesn't work. And he says, he goes back to Teresa and he's like, you know, I know you well enough to know that you couldn't have killed anybody. And I know you couldn't have killed Julian. It just isn't in you. I need to know who you were protecting, Teresa. Who did you love enough to sacrifice your own life for? Mm-hmm. Rebecca and Ivy are looking on nervously, right? And Teresa looks at him confused. She says, you know who?
Still, we are not talking about the fact that she has to believe that he knows why she did it in the first place.
Yeah, she looks at him like, you know who? You know, and she like kind of whispers to him like, I know what happened.
Even from the brink of death and back, Teresa's still like, I got you.
No, this was so funny because he was like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh, I know, you have to pretend, you have to fake it. But like,
that was cute.
I know.
That was a good delivery of like.
And he's like, no, Teresa, I need you to. I don't follow. What?
I really don't know what you're talking.
And she says, "Do you really want me to say it?" And he's like, "Please, yes, say it. What is it?" And she says, "Well, I know that you shot Julian, so that's why I confessed to keep you from getting arrested for murder. I did it to save you, Ethan." And Gwen gets her inner monologue is, "Oh no, this is the thing that will bind Ethan to her forever."
Yeah, it's done. Yeah.
And then Ethan questions Teresa further, right? And he's like, what made you think that I shot Julian? How did you ever come up with an idea like that? So she tells him all about this videotape and everybody's confused. There's a lot of confusion around it. Like, where did the videotape come from? How did you get it? Like, how I didn't, he's explicitly like, I did not shoot Julian. Yeah. I don't know how I could have gotten on a videotape doing that. And Julian suggests maybe it was a fake tape. Thank you, Julian. Well, one for Julian there.
I will say Julian's really sleuthing because he's like, I kind of want to know. Like, he's offended at the idea that Teresa thinks Ethan would shoot him. I mean, like, he's really, like, confused by all of this.
He is. He's like, he was my son. You think he would really shoot me? And Teresa's like, he had every right and every reason to kill you. And, I mean, let's start with he was your son and you treated him like fucking nobody after you found out he wasn't a crane. So let's actually start where you started. Yeah. Where you think that that's a reason why he wouldn't kill you. In my mind, Latara, in my mind, that's a pretty good reason to have some animosity towards somebody. You know, you just drop me like a hot potato. After 25 years of us being father and son? I don't know. So anyway, Teresa then starts to get like these memory flashes. They're a little hazy, but in truth, the vision's hazy. But I swear someday there'll be. She swears someday there was Ivy and Rebecca talking about their plan to get rid of her, right? Yeah. And she tells them, I remember it was Ivy and Rebecca. It was them. And she accuses them of being behind the whole thing. They, of course, deny it. They blame it on the drugs that Julie was shot up with. Right?
And Julian's very funny throughout all of this because he's like, well, she does sound sincere, Ivy. And Ivy's like, oh, stay out of this, Julian. And he's like, what do you mean stay out of this? I'm the one that keeps getting dragged back in every time. And he's just like trying to like drink his drink and understand what happened.
Yeah. And to be fair to Julian, this is about him.
Yes. They're like, why does my murder keep being the subject that everyone wants to discuss? Yeah. It was really funny.
This whole thing is about him. So it makes sense that he would be involved and talk and like be trying to get to the bottom of because he really thought that Teresa had done it. Right?
Well, so that means also the real killer's out there somewhere.
Exactly. So then Teresa explains how she got that tape in the first place, that man came and he blackmailed her with it. And then Ethan is like very touched by all of this, because she explains that she got the tape and all the things that happened afterwards, right? She realized that she couldn't let him die for her and yada, yada, yada. He's so touched. He says, you nearly died, Teresa. You put my life ahead of yours. And then she says, I had to, Ethan. I had to protect you. Meanwhile, Gwen is rolling her eyes. It was honestly, she gives some great face in these episodes. She gives some great looks. And she's rolling her eyes.
It's cool because we, as the viewer, are watching her non-poker face. I don't think anybody else is watching her. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing her just like really frustrated. When she's on camera and she's interacting with the other actors, she'll turn it on a little bit and just kind of save face. But it is awesome to watch her do her thing.
Yeah. Teresa says she had to protect Ethan, and then she goes on to say, I love you, Ethan, and everything I've ever done, right or wrong, has been out of love for you. And that was such an important line, because that is the sentiment behind everything. Like, every time she has been trying to explain something to Ethan where she had done something wrong, where she had lied, she always goes back to, I did it for you. Right or wrong, I did it for you. And so it's just so interesting to see her kind of bring that up, because if he accepts it this time, it means he has to accept all the other times. Yeah. Right? In my mind, am I thinking is if he accepts this time, this excuse of everything I have ever done, right or wrong, was for you, was out of love for you, then every other time she said that, he has to be like,
it doesn't mean it justifies her actions or that we condone her actions. It just means that's been her mentality and it's never changed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Ethan's very touched by Teresa's confession. Not Gwen. Ethan's very touched by Teresa's confession. Rebecca walks over to Gwen and like whispers in her ear, like, you need to do something. They're going to get back together. You need to do something to come between them. But Gwen says to her, she was willing to die for him. How am I supposed to compete with that?
But then I remember in the episode, I'm like, but wouldn't you? I mean, like, or maybe you wouldn't.
No, because that was irrational. What Teresa did was absurd and ridiculous and irrational. And honestly, it should be studied, right? Like, she should be in a clinical study, because no sane, rational person would die for someone else who they think committed a murder.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, maybe there are some very, I don't know. I just don't. I don't see.
Or like take a bullet, right?
I could see
that scenario is different.
In the moment, like pushing somebody out of the way or something, like those kinds of things. But like, to calculate in your mind, I saw. She looked at that tape for days before she turned herself in, right? Like, she knew. She
agonized. She went to Father Lonigan. She did all kinds of stuff. She thought
that through. That was a thoughtful decision on her part. She went to Father Lonigan and got guidance, tried to anyway. She really didn't get anything from him, of course, but I personally, am I gonna die for a man I love? Absolutely not, especially in this kind of scenario. No.
Because again, it's this understanding that he murdered somebody and he's not confessing. Then she confesses for it and he says nothing to protect her.
Yeah. Like,
and she still was kind of okay with it. I mean, she got like, he'll save me at some point, right?
No, girl. He tried. He tried his best, bless it. So anyway, Gwen says, like, how am I supposed to compete with that? But after some prodding from Rebecca's like, no, just listen to your mother. I'll tell you exactly what you need to do. She whispers something into her ear and basically tells her, like, that's going to keep Teresa from manipulating her way back into Ethan's arms.
Yeah.
Actually, Gwen was the one that says, like, what, I'll try this plan to keep Teresa from manipulating her way back into Ethan's arms. People throw around this word manipulation a lot when it comes to Teresa. And I see it. I do. But I feel like sometimes we don't give Gwen the same kind of, because what she's about to do is manipulation. It doesn't work. Because it's like, she manipulates things too. It just doesn't work out in her favor a lot of times. So anyway, this is what they decide to do. Rebecca whispers something in her ear and Gwen's like, I guess I'll try it. She takes like a quick shot of alcohol, like giving herself that liquid courage. And she goes over to where Teresa and Ethan are standing, kind of talking about, everything. And then she says to Teresa, it's incredible what you did. It's incredible what you did for Ethan. But the idea of, leaving your child motherless deliberately to save someone, it just boggles my mind. Like, she's just trying to, like, throw dirt onto Teresa and cast a shadow on her and just trying to make Ethan see her in a negative light. It's really gross. But she goes on. And she says, and I mean, what about this tape? You say that you don't know where it is anymore, but I mean, and I understand that. That's understandable given everything you've been through. But I mean, even I don't think you're lying this time, but some people might think that you're just making all of this up. And then she goes on to say, you and I both know how wonderful of a man Ethan is and what kind of forgiving heart he has. I mean, you were engaged to him for such a long time, and yet when you saw him shooting Julian on the tape, you thought it was real? I don't understand how you could just turn on a dime and think that Ethan was actually capable of murder. And Teresa was like, bitch, I saw it on a tape. I had no reason to think it was fake.
Well, I was about to say, this tonality was very much her mother. Like, it was just so straight up, like, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. It was just like, I was really like, oh, this is totally what Rebecca whispered in her ear.
Absolutely. You're right. She did it in Rebecca's voice. Mm-hmm. That's a good.
And if you watch Rebecca enduring it, she's just like, I'm so proud of my baby.
Yeah. She is like a proud stage mom.
Yeah.
Sing out, Louise.
Yeah.
So so Teresa says, I had no reason to believe the tape was fake. Like, why would I think it was fake? You know, and Ethan agrees. He's like, yeah, he says that, you know, we need to find out where the tape is and how the tape was made or whatever. So he questions Teresa more about the tape. And she tells him, you know, I've been thinking about the law. It was so funny the way she delivered this. And you know, what I've learned about the law is usually the guilty party is the person who has the most to gain. And I've been thinking, who would have the most to gain from my dying, from me going to getting the death penalty? And she says it will be Ivy and Rebecca. And so she accuses them of having set her up. She says, admit it, you two dogs are guilty of having me sent to the death chamber. And Ethan like immediately sides with Teresa. And I loved it. I was like, yes, we're getting somewhere, but we're not.
It's true. I mean, it really is. Like, if you like just be obvious for 5 seconds, it's the two of them that are going to benefit the most. Julian's out of the picture. I mean, who has the most to inherit? It's those two.
Exactly. And Ethan sides with Teresa, and but Ivy and Rebecca, of course, lie, like we had nothing to do with this. And he says, well, you know, basically to his mother, is like, I'll never speak to you again if I find out otherwise. And then he says, and I'm not going to stop until I know the truth, which I believe is a lie, because I don't know if this ever comes out.
I can't remember. I'm shocked that we are even having this conversation. I didn't know we would have this conversation this week. I didn't think we would get here. Like I said,
they were feeding the children. Like, totally, they were feeding us, because we this kind of movement typically takes months.
Yeah, it takes forever.
Yeah. So like we would, if these episodes were airing in February, we
wouldn't have heard any of this.
We would still be in this living room having this conversation in April, right?
Yeah, we'd have been staring at little Ethan for about 3 months.
Yeah.
Being like, let's count his toes again.
Yeah. This little piggy went to the market. Yeah. So then Ivy does such a good
masterful
job.
She did masterful deflection.
She does such a good job turning things around. And she says, Teresa has lied about so many things, so many times. Why should we believe her now about this phantom videotape? And Ethan does respond correctly. He says, because, Mother, I don't believe that Teresa woke up one morning as Mrs. Julian Crane and said, well, I think I'll just give all this up and leave my baby to be raised an orphan and confess to a murder I didn't commit. Yeah. He says Teresa had to have a much more compelling reason to do what she did, and protecting me makes sense. At least in her mind, it would. That little tag at the end. At least in her mind, it would make sense.
Nobody else
cracked me up,
Teresa.
Because like nobody else thinks like that. And then Ivy says, "Well, Ethan, this scenario doesn't work because the man with the videotape was looking for Mrs. Julian Crane, which I have been Mrs. Julian Crane for the last 25 years, unless you forgot." And then she goes on to say, if this alleged tape was about you, then I would think that the man who brought it here was out to get money from me, your mother, to save you, my son. The fact that he ran into Teresa is just coincidence. This was great. Like,
it was masterful.
It was perfect.
I love whenever Rebecca and Ivy join forces. Rebecca right next to her being like, "What? Here, Ivy. Well said." She was just like that. I mean, if Rebecca's complimenting your manipulation, that's A+ manipulation.
Yeah, you've done something terribly wrong, but you did it so well somehow. Yeah. So Teresa says, "Well, you know what? We should figure out who has access to the cannery. Whoever had access to the cannery was able to get the security tape, and that way we'll be able to track down who hired the guy and yada, 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 who made the fake tape." Ethan is like, yeah, I'm going to track this down. And it's crazy because just 30 seconds ago, he was like, I'm not going to give up until I find out the truth. But he immediately gives up because...
Because what did he say? Something about the people at the cannery. They'll probably just be...
says anybody could have broken into the cannery to steal the videotape, and this won't work because I'm sure there's images of me when I was a crane all over the internet, and anybody could have used those to create this fake tape. So there's no point in investigating any further. Like father, like fucking son.
Yeah, I was about to say. I mean, the most he'll do is follow up with Kay and see what she has to say about everything. But that's it. That's the extra mile he'll go.
Yes, he just gives up. He gives up immediately. And like I said, he just said, I won't give up until I find out the truth. Lying ass. I can't stand it.
So who's up for burgers? It's like, let's just
basically. And then he says, I'm sorry, Teresa, there's not enough evidence to go on. Yeah, there's not enough evidence because you haven't looked for any yet. You have to search for the evidence, Ethan. That's what the investigation is for. Like, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this little show called Blue's Clues where they pick up. He needs a lesson from Stephen Blue on how to figure out a mystery. My God, he's not even trying. He's not even trying. He doesn't even have his handy dandy notebook.
Handy dandy notebook.
Yeah. Man, I used to love Blue's Clues, and I was like a little bit too old to be watching it, but I used to love it. I loved all the little songs.
You were at home, there was nothing to do. You would just get on and watch it.
It's like you were forced to watch Nick Jr. because it was on until like noon or whatever.
Yeah, you're waiting for some Nicktoons to show up, but instead you were watching Face go burp, burp, burp.
Face here. Man, I used to love Face. Anyway, hi there, Face here. So anyway, he says, there's not enough evidence to go on, and we may never find out who brought that tape. And he says, but if I find out the blackmailer was working for someone else that set you up, I will make sure that person or persons, as he looks over at his mom and Rebecca, are punished severely. Again, this is bullshit. He's just
I don't think he would. I don't know.
It's lip service.
Go after Ivy. Yeah, I don't. Rebecca maybe, but I don't think he'd go after Ivy.
It's lip service.
He'd struggle.
He sucks. You wouldn't even make the call to the cannery. You wouldn't even make the call. So shut up. You're not going to hold anybody accountable. You're not going to punish anybody at any severity level whatsoever. Yeah. This is when Phyllis comes in with the baby. There are a lot of like scenes happening between the scenes that are happening at the mansion. So there's like time shifts a little bit. So at one point the baby's there, then the baby's not there. Phyllis takes the baby up. This time she comes back in with the baby, and Julian grabs the baby and holds him, and he's like, oh, my son. And he's kind of cooing over the baby. And Teresa immediately sees him and says, stay the hell away from my baby. And then she takes the baby and gives it back to Phyllis. And Phyllis is like, I'm so sorry, Mrs. Crane. The baby was crying, and I thought maybe you would be able to calm him, but Mr. Crane took him before I could get to you. And she's like, it's okay, Phyllis. Just take the baby back upstairs. And then she says to Julian, she says, keep your hands, you stay the hell away from my baby. Then they argue back and forth because he's like, he's my son too, and I'll do whatever I want. This is my house and this is my kid. She pushes him while they're arguing. Just note, because we haven't talked about it yet, Antonio's back in town and he has met up with Pilar. Yes. So at this point, he and Pilar come back in the mansion. They hear the commotion, and they hear Teresa yelling, leave me alone, Julian, and stay the hell away from my son. And then Julian says, you will not keep me from my son. And Teresa says, I'm warning you, Julian. I will not let you corrupt my son and take him with the Crane evil. And Julian says, that boy is my own flesh and blood, and I will see him whenever I choose. And Teresa says, then I will see you in hell first. And Brian comes rushing in and he says, and I'll be the one who sends you there, and punches him in the face. I had to do the whole scene because it was so perfect.
Oh, and to Teresa's credit, she did see Julian in hell. So.
She did see Julian in hell.
She's like, I'll see you there again.
Once again, we'll go to hell together.
Again, we never mentioned that she made a deal with Devil Julian.
That's over. But, isn't that crazy? That's over.
Yeah.
And they made such a big deal out of that. And then,
I mean, all kinds of stuff. But
and it
yes,
could have been so interesting. They could have done so much more with zombie Charity than they did. And I
yeah.
don't know if I'll ever forgive them for what happened with that
It's a waste. It was a waste of
It was such
setup.
a waste.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Teresa.
But yes, Antonio punches Julian.
Antonio punches Julian to the ground.
Who is that? Ivy's shocked. Rebecca's turned on.
Yeah, she's like, who's this handsome brute?
Brute.
So, Teresa's thrilled to see her brother. She's like, oh, Antonio, you're back. And then there was a lot of conversation, but we're going to skip it because what happens is Antonio makes Julian leave his own home. Like, he's like,
Which again, if Julian got back, he was just like, I'm so excited to get home and not have a single Lopez Fitzgerald in my house. And the place was crawling with him. I mean, they were all there.
and Antonio basically, he kicks him, he tells him to get the hell out. And Julian's like, this is my house. She was like, this is my house. And Antonio's like, do you want to fight me?
Yeah.
And Julian is like, no, and he runs off, and he goes to his library, his study, or whatever, his office. He goes into the library, and Ivy and Rebecca actually go in there and have a conversation with Julian as well. Rebecca shows up first, and she's like rubbing his arms, and she has forgiven him like completely, right? Mm-hmm. And then Ivy comes in, and Julian says he's gonna call the police
to get them.
Yeah, he wants to call the police to get everybody thrown out of his house. Ivy tells him that's not such a good idea. You sure you want to deal with the police right now? I mean, you did fake your own death after all. Like, and not only that, all the police officers hate you.
Yeah. Well, also, I don't think he's thinking about the fact that Teresa is Mrs. Crane, and those are her family members, so they have every right to be there if Teresa says she wants them there.
Yeah, because Ethan at one point says to Teresa that Julian doesn't have a leg to stand on if he wants to kick her out of the house because legally it's her home and she's the mother of his child and she is legally Mrs. Julian Crane. And Ivy relays that message to Julian as well. So she's like, if you call the police, there's really nothing that they can do about it. So then they have a whole conversation about Julian and Antonio. It's all very cryptic, like
just like, why is he here? Why do you care about him being here? It's just it's about what is it that you have over Antonio?
Yeah. But then Alistair calls, and Alistair tells Julian that there's some stuff going on between Sheridan and Louise, which we are getting to right after we talk about Chad and Whitney.
Yeah,
because this is like the end of this.
But I'll save the conversations because Alistair and Julian have conversations throughout, and one of them made me laugh. But I'm going to save it for when we get to Sheridan.
Yeah, so they get a conversation. I mean, Alistair calls Julian, and we will come back to what happens on that phone call. So before we go into Shawise, we're going to talk about Chad and Whitney because we actually saw them this week. When I saw them, I thought, it is so odd to me that this is what's going on with Whitney right now, considering everything else that's going on in town.
There's too much. So Charity and Timmy, I mean, it's not like she's the closest to either one of them, but they're big people in the life of anybody in Harmony. Yeah. And she's not over there. But she also doesn't know that Teresa's not dead.
Exactly. It's like, but also Teresa hasn't been dead. Teresa's been dead for what, like a day, 2 days, maybe?
Yeah.
Tops.
Yeah.
I think they slept
maybe
one night.
I think an evening, so that's why she was haunting the house.
Yeah, she was haunting one night, and then I think we had a day, and then she haunted another night, I believe is what happened. And we're in the night where she wakes up. It's like, I think this is the second night she's been dead or whatever. I think. I don't know. The time warp is very strong in Passions. So anyway, let's talk about what's going on with Chad and Whitney. The way this episode opened was
so
crazy.
stupid.
It was absurd. So she's like hanging in the doorway of her bedroom. She's got a videotape. She's like, thanks for the videotape, Daddy. I'll be sure to watch it and work on my backswing for tomorrow. And
gee willikers, father.
Yeah, it was exactly that. It was so
It's
so then
just,
she goes
again,
in her room.
Yeah.
Yeah,
To remind us that she does tennis.
Yeah, they're trying to remind us that she plays tennis. She goes in her room, she puts the tape in, she's watching it, and she looks over and sees a picture of her and Simone and Chad all together, and she starts to feel guilty, of course. Chad then comes.
What a weird photo to take.
Yeah, it wasn't a great
weird
picture.
photo to
At
have.
first, well, see, when I had to rewind because at first I thought it was a picture of her, Chad, and Teresa, which would make way more sense to me. I thought when I first saw it, I thought she was like sad over Teresa, but that was not what was going on. She's feeling guilty about Simone. I don't know, your best friend.
I'm sorry. I was about to say, if it's day 1 or 2 of my best friend's death, I don't think I'm watching tennis videos.
Okay. We're going to talk more about that. So Chad comes in through the window and he realizes that she's still upset about Simone and everything. He reassures her saying, that Simone will be happy for them eventually. But it doesn't really work. Whitney's still feeling guilty. But then they start to kiss and she forgets all about Simone. and they start getting it on in her bed. And then TC knocks on the door. He's like, Whitney, open the door. He gets like so mad, so fast, angry, agitated. Open this door. What's going on in there? Open the door. What are you doing, Whitney? And Whitney begs Chad to leave. Whitney's like, you got to get out of here. You got to get out of here. And Chad says, Whitney, we're both over 18. You shouldn't be scared of your dad any more than you're scared of.
I don't care what age anybody is. If I'm in somebody's house, it's not your house.
It's not your house, but on top of that, Chad is so bold because TC has almost killed him on numerous occasions.
On lesser charges, lesser accusations.
For doing absolutely nothing.
Why are you looking at my daughter, let alone peeing in the vagine?
He has tried to kill him for helping his daughters. Imagine how he would feel if he came in and saw y'all in bed together. My God, it will be a bloodbath. So she's like begging him, get up, get out of here, go, leave.
So let me ask you, the video was so grainy. Did he get out with just the towel around or he had shorts on, the boxers?
I don't know. Like you said, the picture was grainy, and
it looked like he had a towel covering his bits and ran into the closet.
Yeah,
But when he comes back, eventually he had underwear on.
Maybe he grabbed them and went and put them on.
Okay, it was fast.
It was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he goes and hides, and Whitney gets to the door just as TC is like bursts through the door, yelling. He's yelling at Whitney, and he's like, what are you doing in bed? You told me that you were going to watch the videotape of your last match. I wanted you to see how bad your backhand was so we could work on it at practice tomorrow. And I was so pissed about this because why are you yelling? Why are you yelling at her? Her best friend just fucking died.
I was about to say,
her best friend just fucking died. And I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. She just watched her best friend be put to death by lethal injection. And you think she should be watching tennis tapes? Go to bed, Joseph. I cannot stand this man. Actually.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks.
He stinks. I hate TC right now. This pissed me off because what he came in there to tell her is like even worse, right?
Oh,
he came in there yelling and screaming at her about this fucking tape about her and how bad her backhand was. And then he says, well, because she says, Daddy, I did watch the tape. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry I came down on you so strong. I know it's been tough on you, especially since Teresa's been executed. Yeah, what? And then he says, but honey, I have some more bad news. Why did you enter so harshly? Why did you enter so angry and strong? That was crazy. He says, but honey, I have some more bad news. Your mother called from the hospital and Charity and Tabitha's grandnephew, Timmy, have been hurt under some weird circumstances. Why were you yelling at her when you were coming in here to tell her this horrible news? Also, what the fuck is Eve doing telling TC privileged information from our patients and telling him that they're not going to make it. He tells her that TC told him that they're going to die. Eva's not allowed to tell other people that.
I could understand Charity maybe because that's Sam's, like their best friends, couples, like best couple friends kid. But Timmy, I don't even know if TC knows who Timmy is.
My thing is, has Whitney ever even met Timmy? But I don't think they've ever had a single scene together.
Yeah.
But,
I don't know. I know Simone has.
I don't remember it. I can't recall.
Yeah. But it is. I was laughing so hard at this idea of like, why aren't you watching these tennis videos? Oh, by the way, Timmy and Charity, they're dead. But all right, see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, for practice, for tennis practice. Get your head in the game, Whitney.
Yeah, gotta get your head in the
game. Get your head in the game. Okay, so that happens. He sucks. I hate him so much. And then he gives her a speech about family, and he gives her a speech about the
same old shit, and it's annoying.
And he's like, and it just warms my heart, makes me feel good that if there ever was a crisis, that you would be there for your sister. And this somehow makes Whitney feel more guilty. But it's like, whether you're with Chad or not, you would be there for your sister in a crisis, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, he leaves, and then Chad comes out. They have more conversation about Simone, the same old played out fucking conversation they keep having about, but this time, Whitney gives him an example from her childhood about why she doesn't want to tell Simone. And she's like, well, there was this one time that Simone had a toy from a Happy Meal. Basically.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what I wrote down. Happy Meal. I put a McDonald's toy.
Simone had a Happy Meal toy that she loved so much. And I was playing with it and I accidentally broke it. And she wouldn't believe me that it was an accident. And she said that I took something from her deliberately and something precious from her and deliberately broke it. And, she wouldn't talk to me for a month after that. And that was just a little toy. Imagine how she's going to react when she finds out about us. And he then gives her an ultimatum.
Well, first of all, rightfully, he's just like, but she was a little kid. Like, what's your big deal? To which Whitney actually has a great response and says, she has made up a relationship with you. Do you not think she's still childish? And I was like, oh, that's good. That's impressive. Yeah. But yes, he says enough is enough.
He does. He says, he gives her an ultimatum and he says, either we tell her now or you lose me. And I agree with the sentiment. I don't agree with the timing.
Yeah.
I don't agree. Yeah. I don't agree with the timing. I have to.
Because he also disagree. Yeah, again, Teresa just passed away, but also he in the closet heard that Charity and Timmy are dying. So, she knows that Simone is going to have to deal with that. Simone and Charity are friends. I mean, it's I can't imagine losing that many people close to, your unit, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. All these kids. And so he tells her, Whitney, whenever we pretend that, but you know what? I didn't like the timing, but the speech that he gave, I actually liked. He says, whenever we pretend that we're not a couple and whenever we hide our love, we're losing time. We're losing precious time. And I think that's a waste. That's a horrible waste, Whitney. I don't want to waste any more time hiding our love. I was.
Yeah, I was impressed that he did not bring up Teresa's death. Because it would have been an easy layup to just be like, think about what Teresa would want.
Yeah.
They don't go there. He's just like, we're wasting time. And I think that's said without being said. It's just like, life is short and precious and we're wasting time. So
then Whitney agrees and she says, Simone deserves to know the truth and we'll tell her as soon as we can that we're a couple very much in love. And that's where we kind of leave it with them this week. So now, honey, it's time to go to Shawise. Wait, Shawise. We got some real bloom.
And we get some blum blum.
We get some real bloom bloom this week.
We get blum blum.
Y'all, typically on this show,
bloom blum blum.
With all the love scenes, I'm not crazy about them. I'm usually like, this is so unnecessary. Like, I don't care about this. Whether it be I don't care about the couple, or I just don't care about the scene, or it's just taking too long. But this week, I loved it. Loved it. But the reason why is because it was like necessary. It was actually necessary for once. And I loved it. Shawise fans got fed this week. For sure.
Yes, finally. After starvation. Like,
oh my God. They were right at the brink of death.
Yeah.
It was right. And then the Passions writers decided to sprinkle a little water on their lips.
Yeah.
Wake up. So Brian and Diana have shown up to Harmony. Diana's getting her memories back and realized that she's has some connection to Harmony, and Brian mentions the Cranes, and Diana, that name really rings a bell. And even though she saw her own name, she saw Sheridan Crane in the paper. I want to be clear. She saw the name and it didn't do anything for her. So anyway, he says Cranes and she's like, it's all coming back. It's all coming back to me. I remember everything. She says, I remember everything. And then she proceeds to not remember everything at all.
Because someone touched her like this and someone held her like that.
It's all coming back to me. Yeah. Well, he mentions the Cranes. She's like, oh, the Cranes. And he's like, oh, you remember Julian? She's like, no, that name doesn't ring a bell. But
yeah, so it's all coming back to me. So you know who you are? I don't remember that.
That was hilarious. That was hilarious. So you know who you are? She's like, no, not that. then nothing's coming back to you. And she says, I don't remember that, but I know the Crane name. They were
a powerful family, right?
Yeah, in Harmony, and they're very powerful, and they rule the town. Yeah.
At this point, I wrote down in all caps, how does Antonio not know that this is Sheridan? He was very much there. Like, he at least knew that there was a little girl around Louise's age that Mama had to take care of. Yeah. She'd have to know that little girl's name was Sheridan.
Yeah.
So it is just...
It's possible that he's just in denial about the whole thing.
Maybe. It's just still annoying.
It is very annoying because he stinks. And I'm trying to think, does Brian do anything to warrant the button this week? We'll see. I'll keep reading my notes and we'll find out. Yeah. So she says, I'm not remembering who I was, but I know the Crane name. And then she says, I feel a very strong connection to the Crane name, like they're important in my life, like they affected me in some way. No shit. This is so heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And then they decide to go to the mansion to find Pilar, because remember, they had gone to the Lopez Fitzgerald lot, found it a smoking mess, right?
Yeah.
And he was like, we have to go up to the mansion and see Mama, because that's probably where she is.
Yeah.
So when they get there, Sheridan sees the house and immediately gets a horrible feeling. She feels very cold. And she makes an excuse not to go in. She does not want to go in the house. She gets like these weird flashes and she's like, I don't know what it is, but something about this is unsettling to me. And then he's like, well, we have to go see, my mama's there. We have to go meet her. And she says, you know what? I think you should meet your mom first. And after all these years, I'm sure that y'all have much to catch up on, and I'll just be in the way, basically, which I actually agree with this.
Well, set it up first. I mean, like, there's gonna be like I want to see my son and talk to my son real quick. I mean, set it up first. It makes sense.
She says, I don't want to intrude on your first meeting with your mother, and I'll just go back to the hotel and get some sleep. He then offers. He's like, well, I'll go back to the hotel with you. What?
No.
What?
No.
Oh, actually, there it is. There it is.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
We found it.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, just because we kind of missed this because it was in the other section. Meanwhile, in the mansion, Luis is wanting to fight Julian and Alistair. They are both there. He's trying to have he's like, I don't know, you've caused us so many problems. Luis wants to fight Julian. And he's like, if I find out that you killed Sheridan, we'll kill you both. He basically says something about running off people, and they're basically alluding to Martin and all of that situation. Alistair gets Julian a little bit a ways to say that several people have already spotted Sheridan in town, and so that they're already like on high alert. And he says Antonio, aka Brian O'Leary, is here as well. And Alistair tells Julian all about like what's happening prior to that. So Julian's freaking out.
Yeah.
That's what's going on in the
those
mansion.
those were my next notes. So
okay.
you did my work for me. Thank you. And so at one point, Julian says, I don't know how things could get any worse. And he says this line in that conversation you were talking about. Says, I don't know how things could get any worse. The sister I had murdered is back in town. The woman who was executed for supposedly killing me has come back to life. I don't see how it could get any worse. And that's when Alistair says, try Antonio Lopez Fitzgerald. And he's like, yeah, and with him back, the truth might come out as to why he had to leave in the first place. And Julian's like, good God, no one can ever know the truth about that. So again, it's still very murky. So Luis has that conversation with Julian and Alistair, where he basically puts them on notice and tells them, if I find out that you had anything to do with Sheridan, I'm going to kill you. Yada, yada, yada. Later then, he talks to Pilar. He has this conversation with Pilar where he also starts to talk shit about Antonio because that's his favorite pastime these days. And that's how he can make himself feel better. That's the only way he can make himself feel a little bit better is just like talking shit about Antonio. Yeah.
Well, he'll always have that over. He stayed. Luis stayed.
Luis stayed. Yeah. And so he has a conversation with Pilar about Antonio, and she begs him to kind of let it go. Antonio's going to be coming soon, and I just don't want my sons to be fighting with each other. And he tells her, I'll try, mama, basically. I'm trying, but it's hard. Yeah. And then he says, you know what? I need to go to the cottage to clear some things out. Now, when Sheridan told Brian that she would go back to the hotel, she noticed the cottage. She saw it, and she was drawn to it. And he went into the house, but she, instead of going back to the hotel, she went to the cottage. So she gets there before Luis does. She gets to the cottage. She's looking around. She's like, why does this place seem so familiar to me? Have I been here before? And then Luis shows up to the cottage as well. Pilar and Antonio meet up, and they have a conversation about everything. She brings him up to speed on everything. And we get a lot of overlap of Antonio talking about how great Diana is, and, Pilar talking about like Luis and how he lost Sheridan, and just, they're just making sure, driving home the point that these two brothers are in love with the same woman.
Yeah.
So
meanwhile, Sheridan breaks and enters into a cottage that she doesn't know she owns.
Diana gets into this cottage, right? She's looking around. She's trying to figure out why she's so drawn to this place, why it's all so familiar. And that's when Luis walks in. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I was sitting there like, how in the hell will Passions manage to drag this out? How are they going to manage to drag this out? Guess what, y'all? They didn't. These two people lock eyes, okay? They lock eyes, and immediately Diana says, oh, God, it's you. It's really you. My Luis, my love. I remember. And then they have this very joyous reunion. He says her name, Sheridan. And all of these memories come flooding back to her of all of these different people saying
funny and weird, some weird ones too in there.
Sheridan.
Like Julian and Rebecca on top of a desk, and Julian going, Sheridan. I mean, like, anytime somebody said her name, like, it was so funny.
Yeah, and she's getting flashes of all of these people saying her name. And she says, I remember who I am. I'm Sheridan. I'm Sheridan Crane. And then she faints. Of
yes, course. I know. That's why I'm like, okay, you forgot who you are already. I was so suspicious.
Me too. Well, when she wakes up, she comes to. Luis has moved her to the bed. Of course, he ready to get it on. He has moved her to the bed.
Even if it's a ghost, he didn't care. He was
And she wakes up, and then she's like, the last thing I remember is we were on the boat in Bermuda. Like, what happened? He explained
Total
all
reset.
the things that happened after the explosion. Yes. So he asked her, wait a minute, where have you been?
Guess what?
Where have you been? Where have you been all my life?
Yeah, guess what?
And she says, I don't remember where I've been. I don't remember. And I thought, is Sheridan Charity's real mom? Is she her real mother? Because that is just uncanny. These two blondes who always faint, and when they wake up, they can't remember shit. Like, that she has to be Charity's mother for real, in real life. Like, this is crazy. Yeah. So, yeah, Sheridan, God damn it, doesn't remember anything about Diana. Not a single thing. It's all lost. Girl, you literally just got here with Brian like 45 minutes ago. You really don't remember the 45 minutes ago? I hate that. I hate that they did this. So then something happens, and that fucking washer that Brian used to propose, or Antonio used to propose to her, it like falls on the floor. Luis picks it up. He's like, what's this? And she's like, oh, it looks like a washer. And he's like, yeah, it looks like it came off a car, and maybe you were with a mechanic or something. And he's like, well, I'll throw it away. And she's like, no, don't. You can't throw it away. He's like, why? She's like, I don't know why. And then she puts it on her finger because she's like, why would you put it on your finger? Why? She's like, I just put this on my finger to see if maybe I would remember something. Why would she put it on her finger?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, honey, they waste no time. They get right back to it.
Y'all, go push the button.
Oh, okay. I didn't want to interrupt you. They get right to it.
I thought you were gonna put blum blum.
Oh, they get right to
it. But let me tell you, if we could overlay those sounds, that's exactly what happens, because
I don't know if they can play at the same time. Yeah, they're playing at the same time. Yeah, because oh my God, Sheridan's like, I want to take a shower. I haven't showered in my own shower in such a long time, and which actually has it been like to her? Does it seem like it's only been a week? You know what I mean? Like, because if the last thing she remembers is being on the boat, then to her, no time has passed at all.
Yeah. The rules aren't ruling out. The rules don't make any sense.
Yeah. But she goes to take a shower. But they waste no time.
Shower scene. So we haven't had a shower scene in a while.
I loved it. Louise
They're washing each other.
She got in the shower. He went to go get like some wine for her.
Luis is feeling everything. He wants to make sure he is like.
Are you real?
Are you a ghost? Yeah. You're not fate. You're not a vision.
But I really liked what they did before they got in the shower. So Sheridan gets in the shower. Luis comes and he's like, I brought you some wine. He's still in all his clothes, right? He's in his like funeral clothes. He's in his funeral clothes. And Sheridan, it's like, oh, thank you. And then she like grabs him and pulls him into the shower and starts kissing him. And it was so sweet. I loved it so much. Y'all, I love good romance. I love love when it's working, when it like a love scene, when it's like beautiful and cute or adorable. Like, I loved this. So yeah, then they get down to like getting stripped off and showering together, and then they get in bed. Then Sheridan still can't remember anything when they're like doing their post-coitus pillow talk. But she has that stupid ass washer on her hand, and she's like, I put it on to see if I can remember anything because it seems like this is important. Oh, Brian's gonna be crushed. It seems like she forgot him after 45 minutes. Like, yeah. Okay, at least it took an explosion and basically dying for her to forget Luis. And even when she did forget him, she didn't forget him.
Yeah,
right?
He was
like she had lost all her memory, but the one thing she could remember is that she had this love, and she definitely remembered his face and how he looked. Yeah. Right? And his voice and everything. She just couldn't remember his name. But like, it's been 45 minutes. She has forgotten all about Antonio. Completely forgotten about him. And I love that for him. I really do. But yeah, he's like, you know what? I have a way that we can maybe figure out where you were. I know how to jog your memory. And so he's like, let's go to the pool. He takes her to the pool.
Stupid idea. I would never take her back to that haunted pool where she could maybe morph away from me again. Like, never, ever go back in that pool.
Actually, you're making that's an excellent point, but I didn't look at it that way because I thought it was so cute. I loved it.
It was, yes, it was pretty. It was
I love it. He
sexy.
takes her back to the pool and he explains about that whole like situation with the Bermuda Triangle or whatever. And she came into
I
the
would have
pool
been terrified that Sheridan and I
together.
I'm holding her and then I blink and Doc is there instead. Like, I would be worried that she's just gonna morph out of there.
But then they get in the pool together. She doesn't remember it. She
Yeah.
doesn't remember that whole situation.
Yeah, I thought she would. I thought
she would.
but it's clear. Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
clear that the Diana part is not working.
Well, that makes sense. If I was Sheridan, I would want to forget about Diana too. Can't believe I acted like that.
Yeah.
Can't believe she was acting like that.
I remember manual labor and not being very good at it.
Yeah. I vaguely remember not being able to walk and carry a tray at the same time. I don't know why I would even be doing
so
that.
difficult.
Yeah.
Pilar makes it look so easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see why she would want to forget Diana too. I would want to forget her too. And forget that I ever was acting like that. So but she doesn't remember that he takes her to the pool. And then they get it on in the pool. It was cool. It was cute. I loved every second of Sheridan and Louise together this week. Every single second. They could have given me more, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all of that happens, and we are back at the mansion, and Alistair calls Julian, which is, he's already like, hey, I want to tell you, you said you want to know a little bit about my plan. Well, I'm actually going to tell you. And it is interesting, just quickly, this dynamic between Alistair and Julian. Alistair loves to see Julian flounder, but here they actually bond over this moment because he reveals that Louise and Sheridan are reunited and they're in the cottage. And he goes, right now, they're releasing months of pent-up passion. And so he's basically like, they're banging each other's brains out over there.
Yeah.
He's like, the other thing I want to tell you is that Antonio is here. And so he is also in love with this woman named Diana, who happens to be Sheridan. And they both are just over the moon at, like, they even talk about, like, oh my God, can you imagine what's going to happen when they see each other? And they both, like, for the first time ever, bond or something.
Yeah, because they think they're about to get away with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
and
if Antonio walks in on his brother being intimate with the woman he loves, then they'll never get around to comparing notes about us.
Exactly. And we'll just,
they'll
of course,
kill one another before.
Yeah. And one little jab is that, of course, Alistair's like, well, don't you remember, Julian, when you wanted someone as badly as they wanted you? He's like, oh, no, you wouldn't. And so
I don't believe that Alistair knows anything about that either.
I don't. Yeah. Yep. I thought the same thing. But with that said, Julian's already like, okay, now what? I just got to go figure out how to get Antonio to go over to the cottage.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's like mostly what's going on with them. Brian and Pilar have a lot, like they talk at length, as you would expect, Pilar brings him up to speed on everything that's been going on around Harmony, basically. And yeah. Do you have anything to add?
I have one last thing.
Okay.
So Sheridan forgot a lot of stuff. I mean, like, she just like instantly forgot a lot of stuff. But someone else forgot something. Louise.
What did he forget? Beth?
Beth!
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't give a fuck about Beth. He does not care about Beth.
Not even like nothing. He just amnesia too.
And look, I'm gonna have to give him a pass on it. I have to give him a pass on. Now, I have talked at length about how I was against Luis even entertaining the idea of being with Beth at this time because he just simply was not ready. But this proves me right. This proves me right. He didn't even spare a moment's thought to Beth before he jumped face first into Sheridan's pussy. So, into the waters of Lake Sheridan. Okay.
Yep.
So
months of pent up passion.
Yeah.
That's where we get the title of the show.
I do have one last thing. So later, Luis shares his suspicions with Sheridan about the circumstances of the explosion. He thinks that Julian and Alistair was behind the whole thing. And he also talks to her about his brother and says that he's going to be coming to Harmony soon. And he is explicit to her and says he doesn't want her to have anything to do with him. He's a bad guy, and I would rather us not have to spend any time with him, really. Sheridan tries to advocate for his brother a little bit, but Luis shuts her down. He's like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to spend any time with him. And Sheridan's like, you know what? If it makes you this upset, then, I agree. We'll have nothing to do with him. Yeah. So you think, girl. Yeah. But that's it for this week.
Yeah.
On them. That's not it for this week, because we have to go to Magic. I'm gonna tell y'all right now, brace yourselves.
Strap in, y'all.
There's a lot. Actually, I am gonna do a quick little disclaimer, a trigger warning for anybody, because I think some of the things that they talk about here and how we are inevitably going to talk about it, because I like to meet things with humor. Yeah. They could be triggering, because there's honestly some talk of suicide. There's some talk of life support. They're doing a whole debate about life support. There's a lot of darkness here, and then we also have just like some crashing, people dying. So, and it's very sad. It's all very a lot of this was very sad, but I want to go ahead and say I'm gonna make some jokes about some things, not about Timmy, but about Miguel. I have many jokes about Miguel.
I have some Miguel jokes. Yes.
I have some Miguel jokes. All right. So we pick up in the hospital. Remember, Timmy and Charity are in horrible shape. Eve has told everyone that neither one of them will make it through the night, basically. Tabitha is crying. She notes that she's crying real tears over Timmy. She's never cried. She says, I never cry. And I'm crying real tears. I can't believe this. She's begging for him not to die. Timmy wakes up for a little bit now. The sound quality on a lot of these episodes this week was terrible.
And then straight up, sometimes silences. I couldn't hear. It got muted for some reason. I don't know if they were playing copyrighted music or something.
I looked up the transcripts to make sure I had everything.
Okay. Oh, good.
And I used my stash when I could. But yeah, I think I got everything this week.
Cool, good. Because it was frustrating. The acting looked incredible. I will say again, Juliet Mills, star performer in these episodes. My stomach's still turning. When we got here to this section, my stomach is turning again because of how incredibly well she did these. I mean, she always does, but this is serious stuff. And for a show that doesn't take itself so seriously, and I'm sure she was nominated for a daytime Emmy, but this is just another overlook, because I think at this point they were already that's the show with the doll and the witch. They're not gonna give it anything else besides that. And here it's just bravo to Juliet Mills.
She really pulls at the heartstrings, that's for sure. She gives an excellent performance. So she's begging Timmy not to die. Timmy wakes up, and because the sound quality was so bad, honestly, anytime Timmy spoke, I hardly could understand it, because of course, he's acting. He's supposed to be weak. He's supposed to be barely able to speak. So the volume for when he spoke was very low, and he was kind of mumbling a little bit. So it was hard to understand.
White noise in the episodes.
The audio quality was just garbage. Mm-hmm. So there are some things that I kind of missed. I did look up the transcript, but there weren't transcripts for every day. So
Yeah.
I did my best. Timmy wakes up for a little bit. They have like a sweet moment, and Timmy asks if Charity's okay. And Tabitha's like, she's fine, but then
Yeah.
he has some pain. So Tabitha calls after Eve, and Eve comes in and tells Tabitha there's nothing she can do besides like trying to make him comfortable. But she says, I'm actually amazed that he's made it this far. He's got to have a very strong heart. They make so many mentions of how strong Timmy's heart is. And I realized, I was like, oh, I think, if I remember correctly, I think Charity ends up with Timmy's heart. I think that's where we're headed. Tabitha is upset because Eve is telling her there's nothing that can be done for him. And she says, miracles do happen, but I don't think he's going to make it. Then Tabitha does an interesting thing. She prays. She looks up to God, up to the sky. She looks up and she says, I'm no friend of yours, God.
I was just going to say, I don't think I would call it prayer. I don't think Tabitha.
She does pray at one point.
Well, as I'm saying, I don't think Tabitha would call it prayer. I think she really was just like, I'm saying we would call it prayer. I don't know
what you call it when you put your hands together and talk to God and ask him for something. I mean, she prayed.
I'm just putting myself in the character's shoes. That's what I'm saying.
I think this part isn't the prayer, but she does. Actually, in my opinion, she prays to God. Mm-hmm. She looks up, she says, I'm no friend of yours, God, but Timmy is good in everything you could be proud of, everything you want a human being to be. He's an angel on earth. And then she says, she puts her hands together like this in prayer position. And she says, and she asks God, oh, please, God, please don't take away the one good thing I have. Take me instead. Like that's classic bargaining, right? Mm-hmm. So she says, let Timmy live. And then Timmy wakes up again a little bit and he asks about Charity again. And he says he doesn't regret saving Charity because Tabitha kind of tells him, I told you you would get hurt. I told you something bad would happen if you tried to save that girl. And he's like, I don't regret it. I love Charity and I don't regret it. But he also understands that he is dying. He understands it. And he tells Tabitha that he loves her. And she says, I love you too. And then she sings him a lullaby. She gets in bed with him and starts to sing to him and cradles him. It was lovely. It was sad. It was hard to watch, but I was so glad they gave them so much time to do this,
Mm-hmm. Underneath all of this, throughout all of this, the Tabitha evil theme, the something eerie is happening in Passion's music, that like na 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 na, that is playing, but it is much more somber. They have made it more of like it's just drawn out and it's underscoring it, and it is really like I remember all of this, and to hear it again, my stomach's still turning. It's so sad. And the lullaby she sings, she says lullaby, but she won't say the word and good night. She says lullaby and good night, but she doesn't say go to sleep. She starts to just kind of like hum it. Mm-hmm. So she's like, I'm not telling you to go to sleep. Yeah.
And so throughout all of the episodes, this is kind of what's going on with Timmy and Tabitha, right? He comes in and out of consciousness, and she's, trying to get him help, but there is no help for him. The Eve comes back and forth. That is what happens throughout the whole week with them.
Yes.
We do that. And they share really kind words with each other throughout. And especially from Tabitha's vantage, she's just telling him, she's speaking a lot of times at his like unconscious body, because he's coming in and out of consciousness and saying, I can't live without you. I don't want to live without you.
Yeah.
You're the best. Yeah. She says you're the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And when she was talking to God, she says, I made one good thing. I made Timmy. That was another thing that I was like, was just a powerful statement. She also says, you've changed my life forever, lad. You've changed it for the better.
Yeah.
And then Tabitha is like, don't you know that if she goes, I hate that brat. Like she's been the bane of my existence. I've been trying to get rid of her since day one. And she's like, but I would save Charity if it meant that you would stay alive. And she tells Timmy that she even talked to God, and she's made a funny remark about how he must have caller ID because he's not accepting my phone calls right now.
Yeah. At one point, she starts to like pray to the devil.
Well,
the other line.
She went the other way, and I was waiting for that. Like I was like, you can't. She tried everything she could on her end.
She tries. She starts with, Beelzebub, Lucifer, and she says to save my Timmy, and then he starts to like code.
Mm-hmm,
that goes bad very quickly because the dark side's like, hell no.
Well, and he says, he's like, I don't want you calling the dark side for me. He's like, I don't want that. Yeah. Which is, to me, it's just kind of like a weird little metaphor for like, don't try and save me. Don't put me on life. Like it just, like it could be read that way, and it just makes me so sad. It's just, Toto's there the whole time. At one point, a nurse is like, "Oh my God, I'll get rid of this dog," and Eve's like, "Don't worry about it." Like
she literally says it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. And again, let me tell you, when you're going through these things, God bless you, because God bless empathetic and sympathetic medical people, because they have to live with this all day, every day. And sometimes I think they lose their humanity.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get angels on earth that are there with you and stick with you and are like, I know what you're going through. And I thought Eve did a really good job throughout the week of trying to take care of both Sam, Grace, and Tabitha.
Everybody.
Yeah.
I wanted to shout out Eve / the actress Tracy for the performance this week, because Eve is torn up and she's still trying to do her job, right?
It's all on her face.
And she's having to give these people that she cares about the worst news you could possibly give somebody, right? And she's having to do it over and over again because certain people won't accept it, right? And that's a hard thing to do. She has tried everything she can, and she can't, and she's supposed to be the best of the best, and she can't do anything about it. And I think I could see that hopelessness on her, and she did. It was really, really something to see. To Eve. Yeah. I'm not talking shit about Eve. She really is doing a wonderful job this week.
And what I kept thinking about, just me, I was just, because it has always been Tabitha and Timmy, it is so hard to see them do this on their own when there's like a whole room of people. And again, I get it. That's the structure of the story, but it's just so hard to see that.
Yeah. So that's basically what's going on with Timmy and Tabitha. We have to now shift to what's going on with Charity, which is she's dying. So we need to talk about Charity's loved ones and what's all happening there. Basically, throughout this whole week, Simone, go home, Simone, honestly. If you're not going to say anything, she needs to leave. If she's not going to say anything, she needs to leave. Because Simone has like worked out that Kay used evil to create this situation where Charity and Timmy are about to die, right? So she spends the entire week in Kay's ear telling her that she's horrible, she's evil, right? And I agree. Honestly, I agree.
Yeah.
This is heinous. This is crazy. But girl, if you say something to somebody else besides Kay, because you're not changing anything. But anyway, she spends the whole week kind of chastising Kay, She accuses her of manipulating Miguel into sleeping with her. Kay denies this allegation. She says, I did not manipulate Miguel into anything. And Simone says, you're a liar. And the only way that Miguel will ever have sex with you is if you tricked him, if you used an evil trick on him. That's what she says. And she says, that's something Charity would never do. And now Charity's gonna die and you don't even care. This was so interesting to me because Kay responds, that's not true. I do care. I never wanted her to die, which is actually a lie because she did try to kill her early.
Yeah,
but
I wrote down, I don't know about that.
She tried to kill her early on. She tried to kill her in the avalanche. She tried to let that train hit her. Like she definitely tried. She definitely wanted Charity to die at some point. I think originally she wanted her to die when she put her in the ice block, but then she changed her mind.
Yeah. Well, because zombie Charity got too powerful, and so she was like, the only one that can kill it would be real Charity.
Yeah. But yeah, she says, I didn't want this. I never wanted Charity to die. And Simone says, well, you did something to make all of this happen. I know you did. It doesn't matter what your intentions were, okay? Look around you. Look at your parents. Look at what you've done to them. Look how much pain you've caused all the people you're supposed to love. Look how you tore their lives apart because of your selfishness. It was a good speech. I don't know how useful it was, but it was a good speech. Simone's right.
Yeah.
She's right. She's just not helpful. I don't know. I just like, why are you dealing with this girl? She's fucking evil. Get out of here. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to be, if I suspected that my friend, person who I considered a friend, was dealing in the dark arts to the point that they could use evil to basically kill two people.
Yeah.
And even if it was an accident, it's like, I don't want to be anywhere near that. You don't even know how to wield the shit correctly
or
without getting somebody hurt.
Yeah.
I don't want to be anywhere near it.
Wield it correctly.
She doesn't. And so that they're having that dynamic is happening through the episodes, right? Meanwhile, Eve breaks the news to Sam and Grace and says, Charity, I don't know if she'll make it through the night, and you need to make some decisions about life support, saying it may be less cruel to let Charity go. Just let her go.
And that Charity might not ever be the same anyway.
Yeah, she's not going to wake up, basically.
Yeah.
And the machines will be what keep her alive, and y'all need to decide, is that how you want her to live? Jessica and Hank show up. Jessica hears this news. She is deeply upset by it, understandably so. I mean, this was all horrible stuff. Then Kay hears this news as well. Kay and Simone then find out that they're in talks about taking Charity off of life support. Kay is upset for 0.5 seconds before she realizes, oh, well, if Charity dies, then Miguel will be all mine. This girl is evil.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's no getting around it. We talk about how much we're like Team K versus Charity, whatever. But and I am to an extent, but this I just cannot. This was so gross. This was so gross.
Also, if I'm going to help her get Miguel, I have some advice for her in a little bit, but this is not good. It's just horrible.
Bad news. So, the family, Sam says, well, we're going to make this decision as a family and ask the girls what they think.
This is bullshit. I wrote, this is so fucking stupid. I said, if it's a family decision, I said, you all are the adults.
Yeah.
You're going to put this on the kids.
On the children?
You and Grace. First of all, Grace is really where the buck stops here. Yeah. But yes, as a unit, Sam and Grace should agree on this. They did this to give Kay some power and to cause some more friction. But it's kind of, it upset me. I was really upset by this.
This whole thing was upsetting. Do you remember the Terry Schiavo case? Yeah. That I was like, this is, I didn't care for the fact that Passions was kind of using that, because I looked it up. I was like, this reminds me of that Terry
Yeah.
Schiavo thing.
It was huge deal.
And yeah, it was so big. And I looked it up, and it had happened around the same time as this. She had it was 1990 when she was in her accident, but it was like 2001 when somebody, I can't remember which side, either her husband or her parents wanted to take her off of life support, and it became like this big whole to do.
I believe it was the husband that wanted to take, if I'm remembering correctly.
That would make sense. It's been 10 years. She had been in that coma for 10 years. Okay. Anyway. So I thought it was kind of gross that Passions was kind of using that kind of ripped from the headlines kind of writing style here and putting it into this show. But I guess it was a big thing and people were having conversations about it. But to me, this is about as gross as how they used Princess Diana. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we're getting into this debate on this show about should we take her off life support, should we not? And the Kay makes the case to pull her off of life support. Again, I don't know why we're letting the children decide. But Miguel overhears it and he gets pissed. Yeah, he gets pissed. It's like, I can't believe you would do that to Charity, Kay. And then Kay says, well, if she's in pain, shouldn't we do the right thing and do what we can to spare her more suffering? Then she said this, Charity and I even talked about this very thing once.
No. I was like, that cannot be canon. Like, this is a fucking lie. This is horrible.
That's horrible for her to say that. That was horrible.
Like if they were that close, where they're going to sit down and be like, whoa. And God bless, maybe some teenagers have to make these decisions that early. But when are you all having this conversation about life support?
No, never.
No.
Never.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
And also, this is what it is. If I am the Hecuba Tabitha that is trying to help evil win, this is not the way to go about it, because you're the one who is putting Charity to death at this point. Like, you solely are saying, all right, Bennett clan, I think she needs to go. Who do you think Miguel's gonna hate forever?
Yeah.
Like, this is so stupid. My
thing about this too is like, it's been an hour. Like,
yeah. Yes. I know.
Like, y'all brought her in tonight. It's been an hour. Can we at least give it a day or two?
Yeah,
give it a few days.
Yes. Yeah.
I get it. I totally get, like, I understand saying we need to take somebody off of life support. Like, this is no way for somebody to live. I agree for the most part. Especially if it was their wishes to like be taken off of, like, I don't want to live like that. Please don't have me hooked up to tubes and stuff where I can't talk, speak, do anything. I'm not even conscious. But yeah, give her a couple of days.
Yeah.
That was the part that was like nuts to me, that we were even having this conversation within an hour of her showing up. Also,
I don't blame Miguel for like freaking out, because his sister, does he even know if Teresa's alive?
No, he does not know that.
So like, I guess maybe nobody in this room knows that miracles can happen.
Miracles happen once in a while.
They're acting like it was dire. Like, look, Eve already said it's not going well. It's not. So what does it matter if they keep her on there for just a little bit? And again, like you said, it's just been hours. It's not been a whole day yet.
I could see if it had been a month. I could see if it had been a month and Eve was like, y'all got to make some decisions. But like pushing them to make a decision and she just got here. We just like, no, that's, I don't know. So Miguel overhears this whole thing. He's pissed. He's like, no, he begs the Bennetts not to take her off of life support. He says, I've been praying and prayers can be answered. And then later on, the Bennetts tell Miguel that they've made their decision and that they're going to take Charity off of the life support. And Miguel screams, angry, mad as hell. No!
I've never seen him like that before. Yeah.
Everybody, they're like trying to reason with Miguel, but he's like spiraling out of control and he will not accept it. And he says, no, don't you people get it? She just needs, this cracked me up. Don't you people get it? She just needs some time to rest so she can heal. It's like, of course, Miguel thinks she's just taking a nap.
Yeah. Miguel brought up fate at some point, and I was just like, oh, he sounds like his sister.
Yeah, they you know, and he believes in love the same way that Teresa believes in love. Yeah. They're both romantics in that same sense, you know. Yeah. So anyway, he says she just needs a nap so she can. I'm sorry. That cracked me up because that's like always his go-to with her. Yeah. And then Eve tells him, honey, we've done all we can for Charity, but she's not going to get any better. And this is when Father Lonigan shows up. And Miguel is like, oh, Father, I'm so glad you're here. You're here to pray for Charity. Just like me, we should all be praying for Charity. And Father Lonigan, of course, is like, well, I'm not here to help at all. Yeah. Father Lonigan says, no, I am here to pray for Charity, but I'm here to give her last rites, to deliver her last rites. And Miguel says, I thought you would be on my side. And it's like Father Lonigan can't be on a side on this.
No, he's there to fulfill a sacrament. Yeah. And Miguel is just like out of control at this point. And he's like, why are you all giving up on Charity? Answer me, damn it. Why are you all giving up on Charity? And he says, how can you let her die without giving her a chance to find a miracle? Why can't you let her live so she can find her miracle? Why do you have to kill her? I want to say this. I did not like the way this is. I don't like the way this argument is framed, that taking someone off of life support means that you are killing them. No. Yeah.
If I hate that is the framing here, because that is not, it's not that simple. It's just not that simple.
But again, a young person who's in love, this Romeo and Juliet type thing, that's where their brain's going to go.
Yeah. I personally
like,
think that it was that the writers were doing
of course,
a thing.
Yes.
But,
that's what I chalk it up to. To get me through this episode.
Yeah, I just wanted to note that I do not agree with this framing. I don't think that that's what is happening. That when you take somebody off of life support, that you're killing them.
No,
and like I said, if Charity had been in this like state for a month. Yeah. And they were saying this, I would be like, no, it's not going to happen. She's been in this state for a month. She's brain dead at this point. Charity's not there anymore. Charity's not there anymore. However, it has only been an hour. It has only been an hour. So yeah, maybe she can find a miracle. Sheridan came back from the dead again, but he doesn't know about that. But he knows about her coming back from the dead the first time.
Well, it's funny because Passions is notorious for like out of body experiences. I kept waiting for like a Charity like seeing all of this ghost thing would happen. I kept waiting for it. Never happened. Yeah. They didn't pick that route. And but.
Well, he yells, why do you have to kill her? And then Charity crashes, right? We get the beep, 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 beep. And her heart's like failing. And Eve eventually is able to get her heart back. And oh my God, when she codes, Kay says out of her mouth to Simone, she says, maybe we're not going to have to pull the plug on our girl. Maybe she'll do us a favor. This girl is evil. I'm struggling. I'm struggling with Kay right now. I am. I'm struggling with Kay right now. I know I'll get back to like
caring about her,
liking her a little bit more, but right now she's deeply unlikable. And so Eve is able to get Charity's heartbeat back, and Miguel sees this as Charity's fighting for her life. She's fighting to live, and says, see, we need to give Charity time to find her miracle. He keeps saying we have to give her time to find her miracle.
Whereas Dr. Russell, Eve's like, you see what you're doing, like you're stressing, like this is, and in the acting that she just provides, she's totally like, y'all, you're gonna make me do this again and again,
Yeah.
like, and she's not even doing it. She's just like, this is what it is. They're like, I'll keep doing this, but you're making me restart Charity's body, and there's nothing there. And
Exactly.
and it was just, again, Eve does a great job of being like just her face of like disappointment and frustration with the situation, like
Yeah.
or like she's been here before so many times. This is like, yeah, I'm trying to stop you from this roller coaster.
Well, she's in pain too. She's hurting. She's hurting because we have to think about who Eve is to all of these people, right? Like, she has known Miguel his entire life.
Yeah.
Grace is her best friend, allegedly. Allegedly. You know, she has watched Grace's kids grow up, right?
Yeah.
And now she has to deliver this news. And as you said, and what she said, that she's doing more harm to Charity's body every time she has to restart her heart.
Yeah.
And it's just going to keep crashing. It's not going to get better because Miguel sees it as she's fighting for her life. A miracle's on the way. But Eve is saying, no, that's just science. I can restart her heart a few times, but eventually it's all going to give out because I can't just keep shocking her.
Yeah.
So, Miguel, he starts to spiral out of control. He says, we've all talked about faith and miracles, about hope. Where's your hope for Charity? Where's your faith that God is going to make a miracle for her? Damn it. She says, damn it, don't do this. Don't pull the plug on Charity. God, don't let her die, please. He's like losing it, right? It was funny to me right here because he's like fucking losing it. Everybody just ignores him.
Yeah. I know.
They all ignore him, and then Father Lonigan just goes to give Charity her last rites. Like, nobody responds to what he's saying at all. And then Father Lonigan walks past him and starts giving Charity, delivering the final the final countdown, right? And that made me laugh because they just ignored him, and he had just given a very impassioned speech. He really had.
Yeah.
And then Sam says, all right, we've decided as a family, Miguel, it's time for us to take the final steps, and I'm going to be the one to do it, which I think actually is a sweet thing. Like, I would hate to have to be the person to actually flip the switch, right? So, which Eve says, do you want me to do it? I can do it for you. And he's like, no, we've decided it should be a family member. Why? Let Eve do it. She's a medical professional. She's probably done it before, They
had a guy that specializes in
Dr. Gott.
Yeah, I was like, I thought they said God, and I was like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah. God. Okay. That is God in German. G-O-T-T. Yeah.
There you go.
Dr.
Well, he showed up, and he's like a specialist in turning off the machine. I don't know, but
I don't know what the hell he was there for.
Yeah,
I don't. But for one comedic line.
For what? Yes. I was like, what the heck? Yes. So yes.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing up the fact that he's in the room because I have a note about him coming up.
Yeah.
So Sam's going to flip the switch, and Miguel takes Sam's gun out of his holster and trains it onto Sam, and he's like, "No, I won't let you kill Charity." And everybody
Miguel
looks on one side of the bed, and Miguel's on the other side.
Yeah, Miguel basically John Q's Sam's ass.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Miguel pulls a John Q at Harmony Hospital. Oh,
y'all remember that movie?
It was so
very good movie. Such a good movie.
Good. Oh,
Denzel Washington. Yeah.
Heart-wrenching.
Yes, I haven't seen that one in a while, but it's one that I'm like, I want to revisit it, but I'm also like, do I want to put myself through that roller coaster?
Yeah, it sticks with you for sure. So Sam tells everybody, everybody stay back. This is between me and Miguel. And then he gives Miguel this speech. Now, you think I don't know what you're going through, but I got a good damn idea. I know what it's like to love someone with your whole heart and soul. I love my wife with every fiber of my being. Look, I know I'd panic too if I thought that I was going to lose her, but I also know that it wouldn't be fair to her or anyone else who loved her if I kept her body alive and there was no hope of recovery. Now, I'm gonna give Sam a boot and a toot. The boot is you do not know what it's like. Like that you and Miguel are like, Grace isn't dying. Grace hasn't been close to death. Like, you don't know what it's like. But the toot is, yes, you don't want, we're not going to keep her body alive and there's no hope of recovery. Yeah. I think Miguel kind of needed to hear that. And then Father Lonigan chimes in.
Well, I wanted to say one thing before you.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Is that, what I was hoping for was, as Miguel's holding that gun and aiming at everybody, was that Dr. Russell would finally say what we were hoping she would say to someone who needs to calm down.
Oh, hell yeah.
You want a sedative or something to quiet your nerves?
He needed one. He needed a sedative. He really,
I kept, and Dr. Russell was right there. I was like, Dr. Russell, just give him a, get a dart. Give him, and just hit him with darts because he needs to go. He's
him down.
Freaking out.
Yeah.
But yes, you were saying Father Lonigan came in. And
Father Lonigan chimes in talking about if God wants to bring Charity home, who are we to fight his will? Of course, you're not going to try and fight it. Release her, Miguel. Give her the last gift of love. Of course, you're not going to try and pray for the girl. You're not going to try and do some kind of miracle work. I mean, he knows that they could, miracles happen. But he's not going to be on Miguel's side. And it's only been an hour. He should refuse to give her rights because it's only been an hour.
They flip a coin with Father Lonigan whenever they want to use that Catholicism. They just go and see. Let's say he's not on the side today.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's say he's gonna call the Pope and see what we can do. Like they just never know what they're gonna do with him.
So then I think it was Kay knocks something over because she's trying to get to Miguel. Like she's pleading with Miguel. I also want to say throughout all of this, Kay is so upset. She's crying. She's like, no, Miguel, don't do this. She's upset about Charity, right? And that Charity's actually dying. It's weird because at first she's saying like such callous things, like maybe she'll do us a favor and just die. But then when it's time to turn off the life support, she's really upset. She's like,
well, she should. It's her fault.
Yeah, it is. It was just surprising the dichotomy there because you would think that she would just be like, but that's how they show us that Kay is human. She does have feelings. She isn't all the way evil. She just does evil things. But back to what I was saying. Father Lonigan says, we need to give her this last gift of love. What? And the Kay tries to get to Miguel, but she knocks something over because she's trying to get him to say, she's like, give my dad the gun. And when she knocks something over, it scares Miguel and he pulls the trigger. Oh my God. Yeah. He shot Charity.
No, and I thought
gun pointed across her body like he was standing on one side of the hospital bed. Everybody else was standing on the other side. He's got the gun pointing over the hospital bed. He could have shot her. This was so reckless.
Yeah.
This was so incredibly reckless.
Yeah. Well, I thought he shot Kay at first, and I was like, good, Kay. But then I also was like, aren't there like highly explosive things in there? Like, didn't we have a storyline with Rebecca and Teresa?
Yeah, and that time it was literally just like a little spark from Rebecca's clothing or something that caused everything to blow up because there was oxygen. And are they not using oxygen for these people, for Charity, who is barely living and can't even breathe on her own? Yeah. So thank you for that callback because I had forgotten about that. So the gun goes off. TC shows up. The gun goes off. TC and Eve run in and are like, what's going on here? And Dr. Gott is like,
he's been there. And he's like,
he was like, this maniac tried to shoot us. And Sam's like, no, it was an accident. And he's like, whatever, I'm calling the police. And Sam's like, look, don't flip your mind, doctor, but I am the chief of police in this town. If I feel backup is needed, I'll take care of it. And Dr. Guy says, fine, but I'm not going to be a party to this. And he leaves. And I would have been gone. I don't want to be here.
I laugh that there is a man who has just shot at something and he's like, I'm leaving. I would be terrified that he was going to shoot me. But, he was just like, see you later. I'm on my break.
Well, truthfully, my thing is, I wouldn't have been worried that Miguel was about to shoot. I would have left the minute. I wouldn't have been there. Truthfully, when he started spiraling and yelling and talking about, aren't you going to let her find her miracle and all that? I would have had to leave as the
Call
doctor.
me when you need me to turn off the machine.
As the doctor, I would be like, this isn't for me. This is family stuff. This is family stuff. I'm going to just see my way out.
This is Citizens of Harmony stuff. I'm not from this town.
They just flew me in. I'm a specialist from Boston. And so he leaves. He's like, I'm not sticking around to get shot by this maniac. And then Sam tries to talk Miguel down, and this is when Pilar comes in.
I was like, where is Pilar? But we're in a world where Teresa just came back from the dead and Antonio showed up. So of course I give her grace in that, like, there's no cell phones. There's not that many cell phones, at least. So she does show up, which I was like, finally, and they did a good job with Pilar. Like, of course she'd be the only one to be able to talk him down.
Yes. I have to of course, there's so much going on. That's why, honestly, it was a little tough this week because there is a lot going on, right?
Yeah.
And so much has happened in a very short amount of time that half the town doesn't know what's going on with the other half of the town. Yeah. Right? And
it's been a while since we've had something like this where like the kids are on Warlock Island and then here, the
people at the hospital have no clue that Teresa's still alive. The people at the mansion have no clue that Timmy and Charity are dying. Yeah. Right? Like they're just, because everything has all of that just happened.
Yeah.
So yeah, she comes in frantic. Eve explains to her that Charity is dying, and Miguel screams, no. He has this gun pointed at his mother. It's pointed at put the gun. What are you doing? Over Charity? Like, I get it. You're upset. You love her. That's your fucking mom.
Yeah.
Put the gun down.
Yeah.
Are you? Yes, you are out of your mind. Yes, you are out of your mind. I hated that. I hated that.
She gave a great speech of just like, you come on, calm down. And again, her acting skills are so good. She's so good.
Yeah. Well, Miguel says like some scary shit, right?
Yes, that's where we are.
He's pointing the gun and he says, no, Charity's not dying. She's my life. If she dies, then I might as well die too. And then he like looks at the gun, implying what that he's implying.
Yeah, I wrote down he's his sister's brother.
And poor Pilar, I don't know. Yeah, maybe Teresa would do something like this.
Well, I mean, it just makes me think of the wharf, like her going through all of that. Like, I don't have
in the water.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying. I'm just saying, like, I just saw so many parallels between Miguel and Teresa these episodes.
Yeah, 100%.
That I was like, oh wow, I guess I don't see it unless I compare them. Yeah. Yeah. But Pilar does a really good job of talking him down, and she says finally, very sternly, she says, "Dame la pistola, hijo." And he finally gives Pilar the gun. And it's over. But in my head I'm like, now you're arrested. You go to jail.
No, because Sam is the police, and he said it's fine. He gets it.
It happens.
It would have been fucked up for him to arrest Miguel at this point. Like, if he wasn't going to call back up and he wasn't going to make a thing about it, it would be ridiculous if nobody got hurt and nothing happened, and you were trying to protect him before. Yeah. Then why would you, escalate things at this point and be like, no, you're going to jail? Nah. I agree with him. This is one time I actually agree with Sam's policing tactics.
It's the kid just loved your niece that much, and is going through hell.
Yeah. So everyone's saying their goodbyes to Charity. Grace sits down and says her tearful goodbye. I want to note Kay's speech to Charity. Kay sits down.
I couldn't hear it very well, so thank you for.
Okay, I'm going to read you word for word what she said. She sits down next to Charity and starts to kind of talk very low so nobody can hear what she's saying. And she says, "Hey, Charity, It's me, Kay, the one who put you here. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to happen this way. I've heard sometimes when people are dying and they start toward the white light and how then they turn around. Well, you shouldn't turn around, Charity. You should just go straight to that white light. And don't worry about Miguel because I'm going to be here to take care of him. This bitch is nuts.
Yeah. I heard the white light stuff, but I didn't hear every detail, and it was hard to.
She tells the girl, don't turn around, go to the light. She tells her to go to the light. She's horrible. So now we need to go back to Timmy and Tabitha. Same things have been happening. He's, in and out of consciousness. He's having a hard time. We get a lot of sweet things that we talked about at the top of this. And Timmy is like passed out. And the moment that Sam hits the button to turn off Charity's ventilator, Timmy wakes up and he goes, Charity. And then he like codes, like he slips away basically. And Tabitha is yelling for him to come back, but he's gone. He's gone.
Yeah, they had said that light will let you know when Timmy's no longer with us. And this little red light turns off, and Juliet Mills is Tabitha's beside herself. She's just, it is as horrible as I remember it being. Like, it's just devastating.
Yeah, I cried. I had already started crying. Like, let me be clear. I started crying when Tabitha got in the bed with him and started singing the lullaby, and then I did not stop crying. And then I didn't stop crying.
Yeah.
Because it was just, and I'm tearing up thinking about it now. It was just so sad. Ugh. Yeah. It was just so sad. And when one of the saddest things for me about death, I think, and this, I'm sure this isn't like a poignant thought or anything, but I empathize so heavily with the people who are left, right? Who are here. Mm-hmm. And so Timmy's passing is very, very sad, but what actually was the saddest thing for me was Tabitha having to grapple with it, Tabitha having to deal with it, Tabitha having to live with it. And that always is the saddest part for me.
Yeah.
Because I always think about when somebody dies on TV, like, and I've said this before, I am a prolific crybaby. I will cry. Baby, I will cry at any and everything. It could be the silliest episode of SpongeBob, but if something even remotely sad happens, I will cry.
Yeah.
But if I can avoid it, I don't go to funerals.
Yeah.
Because I used to sing at funerals. That used to be like one of the gigs that I did. And I very quickly learned it was like the hardest fucking thing to do because I would get so choked up. I don't even know this person. Yeah. I don't know these people. They just hired me to come and sing Ave Maria. And I can barely make it through it because this is such a sad, crazy thing. And I'm watching these people live out their grief. Yeah. And so to tie that back to Passions, I was watching it and all I could think was just like, what is Tabitha going to do? But then I also thought Juliet Mills, like, he died. Josh Ryan Evans died in real life. And that had to be the hardest fucking thing for her to go on with this show after her, the partner that she had for the entire show passed away and he was so young. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple things here. One, I don't want to go too far into this, but seeing somebody leave this earth is very hard. I've had a lot of people talk about the bittersweetness of it or just the tragedy of it. I still don't know what I call it. I'm grateful I've been able to be there for my people at that moment, but it is so horrible. It's hard. It's hard. And so to see it like that, and it just kind of just takes me back to a place where it's very difficult to return. But seeing that episode, and seeing the two of them, I don't want to take away from the fact that I want to celebrate Josh Ryan Evans. Like, I don't know who listens to this podcast besides our base of people who are incredible people. But I also am always like, I wonder if his family stumbles upon these things. I want them to know how much he is loved by this community of people. I make reference to him all the time. I pay reverence to him all the time. He meant so much to me in my growing up. And I think continues to mean so much to me as this like silly little soap opera that I know he put his heart and soul into. And I just wanted to kind of just pay tribute and homage to the actor. He will return. There are still, this was, so in my research, these episodes were filmed about a month prior to his actual passing. And so then his passing coincides with the actual passing of Timmy. And so that's something that, of course, the fan base pretty much knows already, but in case somebody didn't. So we are going to see Timmy return because, to my understanding, he was going to remain on the show in some capacity. I think he was going to stay on as an angel for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do think that it was going to be this, like, tug of war with Tabitha and Timmy having to either deal with the fact that Tabitha's super pissed that Timmy's gone now. I didn't know that until I did my research. I always thought maybe she was going to make a new Timmy doll.
Yeah. And I think that could have been very interesting.
Yeah. Does she make a new one and it's is it a new Timmy, or is it the old Timmy, or is that Angel Timmy having to deal with this other Timmy? Like,
right. That's what I was thinking, like that maybe she would make a new Timmy, and then there's like this weird good Timmy and bad Timmy situation, right?
And again, for anybody who doesn't know the lore or who joined us late, there have been other Timmys throughout Tabitha's life, like that. Like this is her favorite Timmy. This is also the Timmy that did beyond what the other Timmys did, was he became a real person. Yeah. So then that hurts him the most. But just to celebrate him, and again, I don't know if you want to continue to talk about that, but he, his career, I mean, doing things like being featured as a toddler in Baby Geniuses in 1999. I think most people remember him, and I see this on your TikToks and stuff like that, is that people are like, that's the Baby Grinch. Like not Baby Grinch, but the Little Grinch, or
they call him Baby Grinch.
Yeah. He was in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Something that Mackenzie Westmore said in our interview was how much he loved being in film, being in costume, being in movies. Like, that was his bread and butter. So like, I do appreciate that he went out with like all of these like costumes. Don King, dressed like Dorothy from I don't think it was a joke. I think it very much was like he loved doing film and television, and I think most notably probably Ally McBeal. His appearance on Ally McBeal is another one that people remember. I saw a clip of Callista Flockhart talking about how much she enjoyed working with him and how connected they were during all of that. He was nominated for a Daytime Emmy Award, which I think is a huge deal. And he won 2 Soap Opera Digest Awards. And I saw an interview with Robin Strasser, who talked about Timmy and being like, we both won our scene stealing awards at the same time. And so he was very much just an incredible actor and performer. And I just wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about how much his work meant to me. I mean, my mom watched Passions and was very much happy to see Latinos on a big soap opera. But Tabitha and Timmy is something that we bonded over. Like, how much fun, the amount of laughs that they've provided me. How could I not be grateful for that over all these years?
Yeah, so. and that it's a testament to like him and his talent, and Juliet Mills as well, that when you talk about Passions, the only thing most people remember is Tabitha and Timmy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's people who really watched and will be like, yeah, I love Teresa, or I was all about Sheridan and Louise. Yes, people had their storylines, but the average person who, if you were trying to say, do you remember Passions? And they're like, well, tell me about it. And you say, Tabitha and Timmy. And they'll be like, oh,
yes.
the witch and the doll, Tabitha and Timmy. Yes, I remember that. That was so weird.
I cannot
it
tell
sticks with people.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been at the university settings. I've been at the casino. I've been all kinds of places. And people, when it comes up, and I will bring it up, or if I'm wearing a shirt, they're like, what is your shirt? And I'm like, oh, it was a soap opera. I had a witch and the doll. They remember that. Yeah. I think that is a huge, Days of Our Lives, One Life to Live, Knots Landing. Like, you talk about these soap operas. When you talk about Passions, like, to think that you are part of like what people remember about it instantaneously, I just think it leaves a impression.
And after being on the show, not for a very long time, right? Like,
I know,
from 99 to 2002, and then the show went on for another 6 years, right? 6 or 7 years.
And it has a lot to do just on his impression alone, like just like what his stamp, but it also has to do with a little bit with that they kept his memory alive, full and well throughout the rest of the run of the series. Yeah. Which a show could totally not do. A show could just be like, we need to move on. But there are constant signs of Timmy's presence beyond his departure of the show. And to the point where, like, in spoiler alert, there will be a character later on named Endora that shows up. And Endora is fully well aware of her big brother. Like, she knows who that is. Right. And so I just think that is, and then to the damn finale, which I will always be grateful for, is that they hold a picture of Josh Ryan Evans in the finale. Yeah. And Juliet Mills is holding it. And I think that just, to me, it's just, so anyway, all of that to say, what a legacy. And he will return, but I just wanted to be able to do this here, because in a little bit, Tabitha's gonna get fucking pissed off.
Yeah, we're gonna see it. We're gonna see it soon. She's gonna rain down on the Citizen of Harmony, because she's gonna be she's grieving, and she's a witch, and she is a witch. Yeah. All right, so that's it for today. Thank you, Eric, for being here. As always, it's always a good time. I'll see you again next week, I think. Yes, I have to be here to see Tabitha. I know. Get angry, and rightfully so. Yeah. So, and thank you all for listening. Again, just a reminder: if you would like to have conversations with us about Passions, the best way to do that is to get on the Patreon, patreon.com/passions podcast. Reminder, watch parties are coming this month, February 10th, February 17th, February 24th, I believe, is the game night, is the 27th. February 27th is the game night. All of those things are going to be via Zoom and on at 7 p.m. Eastern time. 7 p.m. Eastern time, and we usually stay on for a good long time, so come join us, chit chat, have a few drinks. Eric, before we go, where can the people find you? I am at Mr. Eric Vetta on everything. All right. And like I just told y'all, just come and join the Patreon if you want to talk to me, honey. You're not going to find me on social media. I'm struggling. All right, y'all. And with that, you are my passion for life.